Hey everybody, my name is Shane Schultz. It is a true pleasure to have you here. This is the Arisen Strength Recap Show. We actually do this show live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's when we go over the different memorable moments that we had on Sunday's show, as well as be able to give a preview of what we're going to be doing for this Sunday on the Arisen Strength podcast. So I want to welcome you all to the video, and also we have a new chat room, which I'm going to have Wayne explain to you a little bit. So welcome everybody to the show.
Hello, Shane. Hello, Crystal.
Hi, Wayne and Shane.
And we have Crystal on the Skype with us, and we have Wayne being the producer. So Wayne, why don't you tell us about the chat room?
All right, this is a service, a site called Chatsy, ChatZY. Could have had a slide up there for you to see, but see, we'll set up these chat rooms to be able to come to it before the show and during the show. So we want to try and get some live chat during the show. When you sign up, it does ask for an email address. That's not an email address that they're going to verify, that they're going to check. And they say your email address is safe with them, but it's unclear what they're doing with it, and they don't do anything that you need to worry about. You don't have to give them an email address. I mean, just give them you sign up with a username, and then just each time, just whatever nickname you want to go by in the room, just use that. Don't worry about having to give it a email address. If you want to give an email address, by all means, give an email address. But it's a chat room, so we'll put those chat. Where are they going to be able to find these links, these chat rooms at?
Well, the links are going to be right around where the video link is going to be for the show. So it's going to be on numerous different pages on Facebook and Twitter, as well as the event page itself. So we'll definitely be broadcasting it. As far as the chat room, I've dealt with the chat room for a number of years. I've never had anybody call me. I've never had anybody confirm an email address or contact me in any way in regards to the email. So it's not something that is necessary to get all involved in. So this is something new. It's a way of being able to have our audience be able to participate in the show. This is one of the things that we've been wanting to do for quite a while. We're kind of piecing two things together in order to be able to do it. But that's part of our Arisen Strength in order to be able to bring out the best show that we possibly can for our listeners, our viewers, as well as those who check out our archive as well. So we're always, as Wayne says, we're always doing learn, improve, share, and sometimes it takes some experimentation, of which we utilize Thursday's show to be able to do, so that we can be ready to go and ready to rock on Sunday for the Arisen Strength podcast. So, Crystal, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Well, Crystal's in the chat room, and so she's very familiar with different chats and so forth. So she's going to be trying to keep it lively and be able to, if she can't answer the questions of the people in the chat, she's going to direct it to us so that we can see if we can at least get the answer to you through the show, or if not through the show, then we'll contact you personally to be able to help out with whatever it is that might be needed. So, Wayne, how are you today?
I'm doing great today. I was the weather was just that threw me off today because we've had kind of a cold spell, way below normal temperatures for us this time of year, and it was supposed to be breaking a little bit yesterday, and today was supposed to be a sunny day in the 70s, and it was cloudy. I don't even get to the 60s. It was they were way off. I mean, even this morning, I'm looking at the prediction for the day, and it was like, what is happening with this weather today? It was nuts. But we're ready for summer. That's we're getting into June here. Yeah. We're bracing ourselves. We have a brutal winter here, but we do have a little bit of we get some warm weather in the summer sometimes. But right now, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I think we're going to be fine, to be honest with you. I think it's going to turn into August, you know, for my personal, but, um, you we had a pretty good show last Sunday as to where we talked about the long reaches of addiction, because both Wayne and I, in dealing with our challenges with addiction, we know that the illness, the condition, far reaches past just the addict. It reaches to parents. It reaches to children, brothers, sisters, friends, co-workers, folks. It reaches to everyday strangers, because of our moods, because of our mindset, and the way that things go. If it's alcohol, it's drunk driving. If it's gambling, it's stealing money, or it's stealing time, or not being invested in time with the person that you're with, whether it be family or just or even coworkers. So we know that it definitely leads past just the addict, and I think we did a good job on bringing that about.
Yeah, I think we had a real, Crystal was able to share with us what it was like, a part of that reach of when there's somebody in your life who is dealing with addiction, and you're trying to, you want to do what you can for them. You have a couple of choices. One, you could just cut and run. So you don't want to deal with somebody who's living an addictive lifestyle, and you just cut and run, no contact. But sometimes you want to get engaged with them. You want to help them. You want to encourage them. You want to empower them. You want to do all the things that we talk about here: support, empower, and celebrate.
Right.
But you have to also not cross that line where you're enabling. So can you talk? Just remind us kind of how that went.
Well, I think that just the most important thing that I can pull from that is that just the helplessness that you feel whenever you're seeing somebody that you love go through these things.
Sure.
And the majority of the time, like for me, I'm not a cut-and-run kind of person, and I guess I could be called an enabler sometimes. I guess I get that brought to my attention by people like yourself or Shane. But that made a lot of sense. I mean, just going through like kind of what your options are, Wayne. That's really hard to do.
Yeah, that's why we talked about it, because it's that because you desperately want to help the person. You want to be there to support them, and somebody hopefully can be there to support the person. Hopefully not everybody turns their back on the addict, but I can't judge a person either way. If you turn your back and have to do whatever you have to do in your life, you have to turn your back on an addict, I can't judge that person any more than I can judge a person who ends up enabling, or then the person who can find that balance. It is a very, very difficult process, very complicated, and you just have to make yourself aware. You have to, if your heart's in the right place, I think that's a good start. But then you also have to get the information. We talked about Al-Anon. That was one of the things we talked about.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the sources that is out there. It really all depends on the individual person too. I also brought up the fact that my family, they got involved into the tough love aspect of things. They were also predisposed to it. I mean, my mother had my biological father, as an alcoholic. So she knew what that lifestyle was, and I'm sure that once she was no longer in that lifestyle, she probably didn't want to be in that lifestyle again, even if it was her son. And also talking about what Crystal was talking about, the learned helplessness and so forth, that probably was one of the things too. So they definitely took on a tough love type of aspect to it. And unfortunately, I also dealt with my chronic depression, and so it was kind of one of those things that didn't really work out for me. That's not their fault. It's the illness and it's the condition. that you know, had us all in a learned state of helplessness. Me as the addict, and my family as the supporters. So, but that again is what I try to do when I go out and I speak at different venues, whether it be hospitals, clinics, or you know, different organizations. I try to bring awareness to the illness or the condition so that it actually we can focus our attention on it, and instead of the divide that's in between the patient and or the supporter or family members, because very often that happens in a lot of these types of conditions, not just addiction. So you know, we had Crystal's point of view, you know, from being a person who is not an addict, but she does have friends, you know, who are very close to her, who are addicts, as well as other friends who are supporting addicts. You know, so that was pretty different type of view. That was something that I think helped out the show in a great way.
Yeah, I think it was it was pretty emotional. I mean, if you go back and listen to it, or
Yeah.
you know, some of that it got really emotional. Probably a lot more so than really I expected it, and I think maybe you can caught Crystal off guard a little bit. How emotional it got. It is a very, very tough subject. And you know, we try to approach things kind of lightly here a little bit. We don't want to make it too heavy, but you know, heavy subjects. And the emotion finds its way to the surface, and you know, and we don't want to. You know, the idea is not to really make this, you know, bring everybody down. We want to, we're talking about bring people up, Arisen strength, bring people up.
Yeah.
But hey, we're gonna step on some emotions along the way too.
Well, I think, and I'm right along with the two of you. I mean, it definitely took me a lot further than what I had planned on going. You know, I told a number of different stories. You know, where I was homeless. I told a story as to where I stole money from my biggest fan in my lifetime, which was my grandmother. I literally stole money out of her Bible.
Right out of the Bible.
Right out of the Bible. You know.
Amen.
So, yeah. Well, that wasn't. You know, believe me, I wasn't blessed when it came to that situation. You know, I mean, I turned that $300. There was $300 in the Bible. I turned that $300 in something. I think it was like, I don't know. I want to say $1,800 or something like that. And you know, by all intents and purposes, I could have taken the $300 that I took in the first place, could have put it back into the Bible. I could have done a whole lot of different things than what it is that I did, and instead I went because I needed to go as an addict, and I gave it all back. You know, over time. And there also was an incident, which is another thing that we really didn't get to talk about, is that when we're talking about addicts and so forth, we're not just talking about the action of the addiction. We're talking about a lifestyle, okay? And one of the things that I didn't tell you is that before, as I was leaving work to go up to the casino, I was in a car accident. I was in a car accident with a borrowed car, which was my father's car at the time. And I was in a car accident, and I didn't want it to get put onto his insurance. And so I made an arrangement with the individual that it was my fault. I happened to I stopped short, and I was going to take a U-turn, and because I wasn't thinking, I was thinking more on what I was going to do for the rest of the night up at the casino, and boom, the guy, you know, rear-ended me. And he had a spider on his front of his vehicle, and I ended up making arrangements for him as to where I paid cash, so that he wouldn't go to the police about it, and he wouldn't have you know, put a claim against my father's insurance. That is a lifestyle of somebody that's hiding something. That somebody is trying to, they know that they're doing something wrong, but they can't do anything to get out of it. And that's that was one of those things. I didn't just give away $1,800. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But because of the choices I made in everyday life, I ended up paying through the nose in order to be able to get away with it.
And fly under the radar.
And be under the radar. Nobody knew. My father didn't know. Didn't hurt the car any. I mean, the only one that knew was me, and the kid, and my wallet, and that was about it. So it was just one of those things as to where that's a secretive lifestyle that's seedy, ugly, and very manipulative. Not only to those. So again, it's not only to those. That's another thing we didn't talk about is the fact that making amends and so forth in regards to the people, our supporters, our families, our friends, and so forth. That is extremely important. That is probably primary. But in that list is also the person who is an addict, to where they need to make amends to themselves. They need to make amends to the fact that this is what I put you through. It's like, hi, my name is Shane, and I put you through this, and just to give you an example, I remember being at a casino as to where when I would go to a casino, I would get comped, and when I say comp, they complimentary. They purchase the hotel room. They purchase my food and everything. I very rarely had to spend any money in order to do anything except for gamble, which is exactly what they wanted. Well, I can tell you there's been numerous times as to where I've been in the casino and I gambled my last dollar away. I had the hotel room until they don't see you on the carpet anymore, until they don't see you gambling anymore. Then they come and say, hey, if you're not going to gamble, we're not going to pay free for your room. There's been a number of times as to where I've been at the hotel and I didn't have money to eat. And I would go ahead and I would do the walk in the hallways, and I would eat off of the other guest trays that they would leave outside of the room. Again, this is what addiction really is. I mean, this is what I went personally, where I degraded myself to sit there and basically eat garbage, although it being out of a hotel, type of way, and it didn't hit the garbage can, but it was on somebody else's tray. You know what I mean? And that's the way that I would eat for the night if that happened to be the case. So I mean, that's the lifestyle of an addict in my view, and there's numerous other incidences that I've had. That we talked about a couple of them.
Well, we in the addict lifestyle, of course. All your choices, all your decisions are made to support the habit. Support the addiction. It's sometimes that choice might be show up to work on time. Put in a good day's work so I can get a paycheck, so then I can support the habit that way. What ends up happening is just all your thinking becomes controlled by the habit. You start making choices. I know when I was compulsively drinking, a lot of choices about where I was going to go out was, are they going to have drinks available? Let's go here. No, they don't have anything to drink there. Why would I go there? So it's little things like that. It would be like, oh, they don't have any drinks there, but there's a place next door that I like. Okay, we'll go there. That's fine. Maybe it's a movie and you can't drink in the theater. Well, there's a place there. I know if we get there an hour early, I can slam down a couple of drinks and get into the. So you end up, all your thinking gets wrapped up in the addiction, and that makes it that much more difficult when you get into that recovery, when you starting to involve yourself with abstinence, the early part of recovery, just doing whatever it takes not to use. But to work up to that point where you're starting to make choices that are not related to the drinking, just because they're good choices. Hey, I want to go do this, and then realized that, you know what, that choice had nothing to do with drinking. It wasn't even like I was trying to avoid drinking when I made that choice.
Right.
You're just trying to get to that place where you're making healthy choices for yourself that are not controlled by the addiction.
Yeah, and you know, it's like there's been many a times where I'd be at a casino, or even if I was at home, I was doing online gambling, whether it be poker, whether it be blackjack. It's been numerous times as to where it's about time to go to work. You know, I mean, it's like, okay, give me a half hour and I'll be ready. Give me 15 minutes and I'll be ready. Give me 5 minutes and I'll be ready. Next thing you know, it's an hour past. You know, next thing you know, I'm no longer able to go to work at a reasonable time. Then I go ahead and take the day off. I mean, that's the type of thing that goes along. And again, it doesn't have to do with the action of gambling. This is the lifestyle that is instilled into an addict. This is a lifestyle that has does nothing but appease or accentuate the addiction lifestyle, and it has nothing to do with the person. In fact, it doesn't care whether it's unhealthy for the person. I mean, I told a number of stories as to where you know, I wrote a written piece not that long ago as to where I was going into a cave, and I was basically talking about a candle that I was using to find my way through that tunnel, through that cave. And really, the reality of the situation was that my life, my health, was that flickering flame of the candle. Meanwhile, there's a whirlwind of a breeze going on within that cave, and there's some voices that are out there that are just laughing at me because it knew it had me, and it knew I was going nowhere, and I was willing to sacrifice myself to be with it. So, you know, I mean, and you know, that's what it is that I personally went through. So I know what addiction is. My family knows what addiction is. My friends know what addiction is. My friends didn't see me, you know what I mean, because it would be I would get into a car and I would be either on my way to a casino or I would be on my way to in front of the television to watch sports, you know, on games that I would gamble on. You know, so this is the lifestyle that I led, and as an addict. You know, and this is the lifestyle that is very difficult to understand. It appears from the outside point of view that this is something that you can just change. It's something that you can, you know, well, if you don't want to lose your job, then I suggest that you go to work. You know, if you're hungry, you know, there's something in the cabinet. You know, it may not be steak, it may not be pizza, it may not be something that you like, but you know, there's a package of ramen noodles there. You know, I mean, it's like that's something that you need to, you know, that these are things that you need to think about, you know, as an everyday human being. But as an addict, these are not things that are thought about. The only thing that's thought about is the addiction lifestyle. You know, whether it be the action of, or just the chaoticness, the craziness, the dramaness of it all that you have to be part of.
Yeah, and we do talk, as it is, turning the mind to get to that place where the addiction, not the controlling factor in your life, and that's not easy. That's a process that it's best practiced on simple things. Change your mind about simple things, because you know, and when I say change your mind, really, literally change the way you think about something. Think of some things that you think of now that you think, hey, I like this because, and then have to change your mind on something to the opposite viewpoint, and accepting that, hey, I like it now this way. So it's a tough process. I mean, you know, a lot of people I don't know if I can think of any kind of examples that older people are starting to find this. Older people like me, my age bracket, with marriage equality is one of these things that maybe 40 years ago. People didn't think it was a good idea. That marriage equality not a good idea. But those same people now, for 40 years, a lot of effort, now they think it's a good idea. And it's arguments that they use for convincing themselves now. Those arguments were around 40 years ago, and they may have heard them. They may have been in the room when they were talking, but they didn't hear them. So it's being able to listen, being able to really hear what's happening, and then to slowly change your mind. It's never a quick flip. It is always a slow process. So this, with the recovery prediction, it is a slow process. I mean, there could be a lot of will, a lot of desire. I want to quit, but the work that you have to do mentally to have that frame of mind is not as quick as that decision to say, yes, I want to quit. Because it's easy to say I want to quit. It's really hard. And that's not to say it's not impossible. It just takes support. It takes programs can help, but it takes a support structure. Friends, phone numbers. It takes a plan. It doesn't just happen magically overnight.
Well, you're talking about recovery, which is another thing that we talked about on the show. Basically, as our celebration, because as Wayne and I know, what recovery did for us is it gave us a life that was outside of our addiction, of which, again, I think earlier, our life was our addiction. It was our lifestyle. The addiction lifestyle was our life. And so what Wayne is saying is very true. It's not something that you can just, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore, and be done with it. There's the thing called withdrawal for addicts, whether it be alcohol, whether it be drugs, and yes, even gambling and other addictions. It's your mind is just so centered in on one thing, and that one thing is to basically a slave to the addiction lifestyle. So to be able to break that habit, break that cycle, that pattern, it requires a lot of dedication. It requires a lot of education, re-education within the mind, and also compassion towards yourself as well as for the ones that you've affected.
Yeah, they use a lot of cliches, and they're like bumper stickers. They're really just like shorthand for a much more deep program. But one of the they'll use is people, places, things. In early recovery, one of the things you have to try and do is change your people, places, things. And what you're really doing is you're changing the thinking that leads you to those places, to those people, to those things. We gather those things in our lives, those people, and we go to those places based on what we're thinking about. And when you're in that addiction lifestyle, you're gravitating toward people who are sharing that lifestyle with you. And that's so it's not just a matter of just avoiding your people, places, things, or changing your people, places, things, but there really is that deeper thing that you actually have to adjust the thinking that leads you to those people, places, things, because you don't want to be led back there by accidents.
Right.
You find a whole new group of people, places, things. Turns out they're just the same ones, just different names.
And another thing about when it comes to when it comes to being an addict, it's something that doesn't turn around real quickly. And here's the thing, it does turn around very quickly to go right back to it because it's so welcoming. It is so commonplace. The feeling of the lifestyle, and that's where people, places, and things come into play, because what it is that you're trying to break yourself away from that cycle, to break away from that pattern, and it only takes one thing. That's why they say an alcoholic, it only takes one drink. A gambler only takes one bet, and guess what? It has nothing to do with it. It's almost not true. It's not one bet. You're already there. You know what I mean? You're already in the mindset that you're going to gamble, you're going to drink, you're going to drug.
I mean, 20 bad choices that led you up to that.
Exactly.
Making that bet.
And in most cases, it's a self-sabotage.
Yeah.
And we talk about that also with different conditions and illnesses that are out there. I talk about validation. You know, it's like it all depends on what it is that's within you that you feel. Okay, so if you feel like you're an addict, guess what? You're going to act like an addict. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're sick, well, you're going to unconsciously, not subconsciously, I should say, you're going to act as if like you're sick. And it's nothing against the person. I'm not trying to be that way. I'm not one of those to say, oh, well, if you just turn the thought, well, then everything's going to be better. That's not what this show is about. It never has and it never will be. Because we acknowledge that the things that we go through have an effect, period. It doesn't matter whether anybody believes it or not. It does have an effect. But what I'm saying is, as far as validation is concerned and what our actions are based off of that, what we do is we try to prove what it is that we feel. And so if I feel like I'm an addict, then I'm going to do actions that are going to require me to be an addict.
Yeah, and one of the things we did touch on a little bit was, I think it was this week or maybe the week before, where we were talking a lot about the celebration part. And, you know, part of what you have to do in this process, and this is good to do in any kind of your life, not just recovering from addiction, but any kind of just spiritual rebuilding, is finding small things to celebrate. Because a lot of times we do beat ourselves down, and we don't give ourselves credit. And so we feel like I have nothing to celebrate, I'm not worthy. Or we make these celebration goals, these real long-term goals that we may not reach for several months or years, so we have no celebration in between. But by setting small goals and recognizing when we meet small goals, that just over time can help. And with recovery from addiction, one of the phrases we use is one day at a time.
Yeah.
And what I do is I make a morning commitment to not drink that day. You know, and I give myself permission, or I leave open the possibility that tomorrow I have a real bad day. And I do remember the past when I had a bad day, or if I had a day ending in a Y, I would drink, and it didn't take much. But what I do now is say, okay, I'm just not going to drink today. Whatever happens, I'm going to get through today. And maybe if I wake up tomorrow, I'm not strong, I might end up drinking. But today, I'm going to make a commitment to myself to be strong today and not drink today. And at the end of the day, or the next morning when I wake up, I have a little celebration because, you know what, I made it through yesterday. And I did. I made it through yesterday. I committed yesterday to not drinking yesterday, and I made it through the day. And I have to do that one day at a time. That's you know, I give myself a little celebration every day for doing that.
And that's, you know, I mean, that's, like, my date was 2/17/07. You know, when I went in and I really worked my recovery. You know, and like I say, the little things make a big difference. It's one of those, you know, it's like the little conquests, the little goals that you set. You know, we talk about 90-90, which is for Alcohol Anonymous, and Narcotics Anonymous. It's 90 meetings in 90 days. GA, there's not a whole lot of groups that are out there as much as what AA and NA have. But they do still have the 90-day, you know, concept to where, you know, just listen to us. Just listen for 90 days. Listen more than speaking. And you know, and getting those toxins out of you, and when I say toxins, I mean figuratively and literally, you know, as to where you're uprooting yourself. Because if you picture a tree, okay, addiction is the biggest stump you'll ever know in your life. And if you're trying to uproot that stump out of the ground, the roots are deep. The roots extend very long, and it's like heaving up on a stump to pull it out of the ground. It's about that easy. and you know, and it takes commitment, and it takes dedication. But there definitely is a reward, and that's why we utilize it as a celebration. Crystal, you even mentioned the fact that knowing somebody who is an addict and then somebody who is in recovery, you know, it's like black and white, right?
No, absolutely so.
Yeah.
And it's a different kind of support, a different level of support too.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that's listening to you guys that is important, I think for me to go through or to go over anyway, is like for the addict to realize how difficult it is for the people that are around them and the people that love them. And, you know, I think a lot of times, whatever that addiction is, whether it's chronic lying or sexual behavior, gambling, alcoholism, and, you know, kind of the same thing, we suffer just as much, just in a different way. And
Right.
so whenever you get to that recovery part, and you can kind of like take a deep breath and let it out for change, and that's such a great feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you brought that up, and you know, I can't tell you. I can only tell you from my standpoint is that I knew what it is that was happening with my family. I knew how much of an effect that my addiction was having on people that I love. I knew that I was hurting them. I knew, and I was doing everything that I could to not do that. But at the same time, you know, being an addict, that doesn't matter. And you know, it takes extreme dedication, and it takes extreme work to be able to break out of that cycle, out of those addiction related behaviors. I'll tell you a story. You know, I dealt with chronic depression along with my addiction, and in fact, I actually blamed my addiction for my depression. That was all my problems, to be honest with you. The reason why I thought that is because that was a socially acceptable answer. You know, but when it came to my recovery, I knew that I had to throw my entire life into this. I knew that I had to utilize the rules or the bylaws as the law, you know, in my case. Some people use them as suggestions. I could not. I could not allow myself to be able to manipulate one rule that was in the program. You know, so I had to dedicate myself to my recovery. Because of my depression that I was having, I was at a point as to where I pretty much was at my end. My recovery, you know, it didn't work out too well in the beginning. I mean, I lived in my car. I slept underneath my desk at my work, at my office. You know, I didn't have a whole lot of friends. You know, and when I was in the room, you know, I was still leaving the room and going home and dealing with my demon is what I called it. And I found myself sitting there contemplating suicide, and not only contemplating it, but damn well planning it. And I had made an attempt. It was to the point as to where I was incapacitated. I was in a motel room that I was staying. I called my family, fully believing that it was going to be the last time that I was going to talk with them. And I basically was just waiting to die. And as I'm in this state, I literally fell. I ended up with a concussion because I landed on my head, and I was totally passed out, and I was just waiting to die. Well, make a long story short, my family was looking for me. They were dedicated to me and their love, and they found me in the motel room. The police found me, and the ambulance came in. They had to resuscitate me a little bit. They had to, get me back into being conscious, of which I was only for a short period of time. And this is the dedication that I had towards my addiction, or towards my recovery. If you remember, when I talked about the story on Sunday, was that my father was a very big part of bringing me to GA to be able to work on my recovery. He because of his selflessness in bringing me, I felt an accountability towards him, and I didn't want to hurt him, and I didn't want to let him down. Well, for all I knew, I was taking my last breaths, on the floor, with the EMTs working on me at the time. And the minute that I was conscious, the minute that I was at all conscious, I realized that my father was standing, a little bit away from me as he was watching, and I can just imagine what it is that he was thinking. And I didn't want him to think that it was that I made this attempt because I gambled. I didn't want him to think that I went back to addiction. I definitely didn't want him to think that with me having my last breath. So I turned around and I literally crawled to my father's feet, and I said, 21707. 21707. That's all I kept on saying. I kept on repeating that date. That's the only thing I could get out of my mouth was 21707. That's how dedicated I was towards the recovery. That's how accountable that I was towards my recovery. And I wanted my father to know that I did not participate back into the addiction world for me to make that attempt. And then, I woke up 2 days later. So, that's the dedication that I had towards my recovery. That dedication that I had me here to be able to do the things that I do. So that was pretty much our show in regards to the lengths and the far reach of addiction that goes far past just the addict. Another thing that we talked about was also our good friend Charles. For those who aren't aware, Charles he left a message last Monday, not this past Monday, but the Monday before, saying that he was packing his bag and he's out of here. And to be honest with you, I didn't exactly know what he was saying. But then he came out with that they finally have the kidney that he's been looking for over 5 years. So it was a time for celebration, and he ended up having the procedure. Everything went very well, and he was in the recovery room. Well, he ended up having complications with the transplant that he had, and to the point as to where we were quite concerned with his health and his well-being. The kidney is still viable. We knew that, and we got. I just got some more information that Charles is actually doing a little bit better. His surgeon that did the transplant says that he is progressing as much as what he can for what it is that he's been through. And he's going to be taken off of the ventilator, which is good because he's actually starting to breathe a little bit better on his own. He was having trouble breathing. So he's getting more oxygen within his lungs capacity, so to be able to breathe a little bit better. So Charles is in for a long recovery, but it seems as if like he's going in the right direction. So I asked everybody to keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working. And hopefully we'll have Charles at least home to where he can start recovering a little bit, and then we can start inviting him back onto the show, as he's able to. But that's something that I'm very happy that we got that information today. That he was actually going in the right direction, and I know that both Crystal and Wayne are very fond of Charles, as I am, as well as Dan the man, who was also on our show. We all just want to say, continue getting well, Charles. Continue,
get well, Charles. Keep doing
continue fighting. It's like the kidney is still viable, so that's a good thing. And we're just hoping that he can get home and he can start recovering to the point as to where he can start having a life that means something to him in a way that only he can understand. For what it is that he's been through. For his own purposes. So I know Crystal, definitely is sending her well wishes. Wayne's sending his, and obviously I'm sending mine. So that's an absolute a little bit of a breath for us. To know that he's actually getting a little bit better. So. And also keep his wife in mind too, because she's not been feeling too well as this has been going along. So definitely keep them in your thoughts and prayers. So that's pretty much our show. This week, this Sunday, we're going to talk about self-esteem. And this actually, Crystal knows, this actually came from one of our listeners, one of our audience members, and also part of our focus group. At the Arisen family, and it wasn't just one person. There was a number of people who wanted a show that was based on self-esteem, and I think that it's a great thing. I think that it's something that that I can definitely relate to, and I know that Wayne was pretty excited when he saw that we were going to be working on it, and I know Crystal was as well. Because it definitely talks about how we can have Arisen strength within us come out, and to the point as to where maybe we can turn the thought, maybe we can turn somebody's life around, with some awareness and some acknowledgement of what it is that they've been through, and be able to give them some direction that they can be able to utilize for themselves to be better than what they are today. So that's our show. I'm tired, so I really appreciate everybody for stopping by and watching the show, whether it be the video or whether it be the chat room. We're working on the chat room as we speak, and we're gonna have it again this Sunday. We're gonna open it up earlier than what the show is, so that people can get acclimated to it and be able to ask any questions that they might have that they might want answered on the show, and I think that it's going to be a good thing. So ways to get in contact with us, we have our email, which is arisenstrength@gmail.com. On Twitter, it's @arisenstrength, all one word. If you're on Twitter and you want to tweet to us, just use the hashtag ArisenStrength, just as the same, And of course, we're a group of which I love like family. That's the Arisen Strength family, which is a public group. And right now we have close to 500. I think it's close to 500, right, Crystal?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's close to 500 members in the group, which isn't too bad considering the fact that we started, in March. You know, no matter what it is, it's definitely a focused group. It's one that you know, tries to help each other out, and it's one that we all care about. So, you know, definitely get in contact with us. Feedback means a whole lot to us. We're able to learn, improve, and share, you know, as best as we possibly could. And you know, that's why we're here is to try to have a better show week in and week out, you know, for the audience and the listeners. So that's all I got for tonight, folks. I want to say thank you. And definitely, you know, come and join us again on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You know, we'll have the advertisements for the show as well as for the chat room. You know, so everybody can participate and have a good time. So we're going to talk about self-esteem on Sunday night, folks. So have a good night. Thanks for coming. I know how you feel, and I'm here to help. Good night, everybody.
Good night.